Alright guys, Jameson and Alex here. Today we're going to be doing a quick review or re-review update on the Juggernaut Barbarian, which we originally had done for the Taldorei campaign setting. We rated it for the subclass series, but with the new Taldorei Reborn campaign setting book, which is basically just an update to that.
With a bunch of stuff added to it. Yeah.
They revised all the subclasses, so we're just going to go over today the Juggernaut Barbarian and the changes and how it may have impacted the scores that we originally gave it as well. So we'll kind of go over the abilities, review what they were and how they changed, and then say what our updated scores for the roleplay, combat, and overall class synergy based on those abilities that we normally would do in the subclass series.
Alright, so starting off, we get Thunderous Blows at level 3. You hit a creature with a melee attack while you're raging. You can push that creature up to 5 feet away in a direction of your choice. A creature that is huge or larger makes a strength saving throw with a DC equal to 8 plus your proficiency plus your strength modifier. On success, the creature is not pushed. Starting at 10th level, you can push a creature up to 10 feet when you hit it with a melee attack while you're raging.
Right, so how it was before is it was only once per turn you could do this when you deal damage versus when you hit with an attack. Right. So when you make an attack versus dealing damage, that's the big thing. And then once per turn versus however many times you want to in a turn. And then every creature that you hit made the save. Whereas now it's only creatures that are huge or larger that have to make the save.
Right.
So if they're large or smaller, they just automatically get pushed back.
Right.
And then also how it was before is you could then move into their space after you push them. But that is gone. But there's a reason for that, which we'll get there.
Also, level 3 of Spirit of the Mountain. You harness your fury to anchor your feet to the ground, becoming a bulwark of strength. While you're raging, you can't be knocked prone or moved along the ground against your will.
Right, this one is a little bit more straightforward. It's pretty much the same. The only thing they really changed here is you also can't be moved along the ground. It was originally you just couldn't be knocked prone unless you were unconscious, which if you're unconscious, you're going to drop your rage. Anyway, so just kind of redundant. This kind of reworded it a little bit and just added that you can't be pushed along the ground as well.
6, we have Demolishing Might, which doesn't really change at all. The wording will change a little bit, but it's your melee weapon attacks deal an extra 1d8 damage to constructs and deal double damage to objects and structure, which is essentially the siege property.
Originally, it just said you get to gain the siege property with your attacks, and now it just explains what that is.
For who may not know otherwise. Right. Also at 6, we have the Resolute Stance. You can temporarily refocus your combat ability to make yourself a bulwark of defense. At the start of your turn, no action required, you can assume a defensive stance that lasts until the start of your next turn. While in this stance, you can't be grappled, attack rolls against you have disadvantage, and your weapon attacks are made with disadvantage. You go to like super turtle mode there, essentially. Yeah.
And this is actually a completely new ability. They added this in altogether. It was not even part of the subclass originally. So that's just an extra bonus thing that they got on there. Though I'm not sure really, as a barbarian, how much that really matters, because your HP is your defense. You don't really need it.
You have health and unarmored defense. That's all you're worried about. The biggest change, however, comes with the ability you get at level 10, which is Hurricane Strike. Let's see. As a reaction, you can push a creature at least 5 feet, and then you can leap into an unoccupied space next to the creature. If you do so, the creature must succeed a strength saving throw, DC equal to 8 plus your proficiency plus your strength modifier, or be knocked prone. The leap costs no movement and does not provoke opportunity attacks. Additionally, whenever you push a creature into a space within 5 feet of one of your allies, the ally can use its reaction to make a melee weapon attack against that creature. So that now your pushing mechanic actually comes into play and becomes more more important actually to use regularly.
Right. And how it was before was when you made a weapon attack while raging, you could make another attack as a bonus action with the same weapon against a different creature within 5 feet of the original target and also within range of your weapon, which pretty much was never. Because how often can you think of a situation where there's something standing there, you're standing next to it, and there's also something standing next to you and next to the target you're standing next to?
It's very rare.
It does not happen very much. So this pretty much, and it was called Overwhelming Strike, which was more like Underwhelming Strike, and now it's Hurricane Strike.
Yes.
So a nice little buff up on there, and to give you more utility with the pushing mechanics.
Yes, a little in-class synergy there, which I like. Yes. And finally, we have Unstoppable. While you're raging, your speed cannot be reduced, and you are immune to the frightened, paralyzed, prone, and stunned conditions. If you are frightened, paralyzed, or stunned, you can use a bonus action to enter a rage, even if you can't otherwise take actions. You aren't affected by any of these conditions while you're raging.
The main change that they did with this is they added your immune to prone condition as well, and it was originally you suffered a level of exhaustion after you did
that's right.
So they got rid of the exhaustion and added immunity to prone condition.
Mm-hmm.
So pretty nice little bump up on there.
You become an unstoppable force, literally immune to most forms of CC without having the drawback, essentially, with the update.
As a recap of our old scores with the roleplay value, again, interacting with world around you, non-combat scenarios, avoiding combat, things outside the initiative order, basic things like that. Not talking about class fantasy, history, lore, background, that's on you. You know the gist.
Yes.
How it works. If you want to watch the whole video, you can go back and watch the original video. So with the roleplay value, we originally gave it a 1.5.
Yes.
And we think with these changes on here, with the some niche little things here and there with the ability to like leap to a push target or shove target or whatever like that can come into play. You have some options with the not being able to be moved along the ground. Like you're harder to be moved just in general, not just be knocked prone.
Yeah.
So that can come into some niche play. So basically just some small little things here and there that we thought warranted it up a half point bump. So we bumped it up to the roleplay value of a 2 now with the update.
Yep.
And then with the combat side of things, again, we originally gave it a 2.5 score, but with all of these changes, I mean, you're getting the auto pushback, which is great.
Yep.
You're getting the extra amount of pushback, which is nice to have as well. And then again, the not being able to be moved can come into play. The defensive stance is an extra thing that you can use if you really are in a tight spot. But as a barbarian, you're probably the least person worried about going unconscious.
So maybe if you're fighting like some really big creatures, your health is starting to get low and you're only fighting the one target and you've got all its attention because you really pissed it off when you first started fighting it.
Yeah.
There are some uses. It's an option and it doesn't cost you anything.
Right.
So there's I mean you can't put downgrade on a thing for it being an option.
It's straight up defensive option that you didn't have before.
Yeah.
And then the new Hurricane Strike is really helpful and useful, especially being able to
over where it was. It's
it was basically an unused ability to something that's actually pretty useful now.
Sure.
And then
and pairs with the fact that you get to push stuff, it actually makes that part more viable as well.
And then the upgrade to the capstone as well with the immune to prone and no exhaustion. I mean, it's just a given on there. So we actually bumped it a full point from 2.5 to 3.5 for our combat score. So a nice little bump on there.
It definitely still has its limitations. Like as a barbarian, you're one to absolutely smash stuff, and it's basically what this subclass is built around is letting you just do what base barbarian does and get around CC and chasing stuff down and moving stuff out of your way and not being moved. But as far as you being able to actually output more damage or be more tanky as part of your bit without having to change what you're already doing, you're not really getting much aside from the siege bit and extra damage to constructs. And constructs is not a very big monster type.
Not so much.
I mean, it's probably something you might see like maybe in an arc of a campaign kind of thing, because again, it's going to depend on your setting. Obviously, if you're more of a steampunky type, campaign, and it might be really daggone good. But again, as a general, it's not like it's against humanoids or beasts that you're going to see more reliably in most campaigns. So it does still have its limitations for being higher on the combat side.
Yeah, for sure. And I will make one comment as well, which is if you're playing in somewhere that has lots of environmental hazards, you could easily see this be bumped up to a 4 or 4.5 because the amount you're going to be knocking people around is going to be ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, like if you're playing with druids who like to put traps and stuff everywhere, or even rangers to a lesser extent that can do that. Like I can see a druid putting a wall of fire up, and you're like, "Hey!"
You just keep coming out and keep knocking them back through it. Yeah, there's some stuff you can do. Or just knocking people off cliffs or into lava pools. I mean,
depending on environment and team comp, there's definitely some more exploitation you could have with it.
When you're pushing people when they're large and they automatically get pushed 10 feet per attack, you're pushing people 20 feet around. You can really knock people around quite a bit. So
and you can negate almost all of their movement every turn just by if they move 30 feet this way to get it's like no, you just go back this way.
Yeah, and you got reckless attack, so you're probably going to be hitting them. So they're going to get knocked.
Exactly.
So definitely interesting on there. And then lastly, we have the overall class synergy, which we originally gave a 3.5. And again, just based on what we've already talked about, again, the extra bonuses and ways seeing things synergize with the knockbacks and then the leaping to things and allies getting their opportunity attacks and stuff like that, which one thing we didn't mention is rogues are going to love you because you can knock them back up in there.
Yep.
And if you can also be within range, they get that auto. They get well, not auto, but they get a chance for sneak attack again when they use a reaction to make an attack. So that could be.
And if they're everything you're knocking prone, if it's within the rogue's range, is going to have advantage on that attack as well.
Right. Yeah.
For any other melees for that matter.
Yeah. So you're going to be good friends with those guys.
Yep.
But yeah, just the internal synergy we thought warranted an upgrade as well, so we bumped it up from a 3.5 to a 4.
Yep.
So we got a full 2-point score increase across the board from this update.
Yep.
Which I think is actually pretty solid. It's actually much better and more balanced and something you'd actually consider playing. Now, before I wouldn't have even probably thought about ever playing one, but now with the ability to push stuff around, kind of piques a little bit of interest.
I think especially if you know you're going to have a good party comp, being able to abuse it.
Yeah,
and you can kind of play that
ahead of time. Warlock and some druid, and you can do some shenanigans for sure.
Or Thaumaturgy Wizard. Or sorcerer, I mean, like messing with gravity and pushing, pulling stuff. You can literally just toss people around all over the place.
Just messing. Yeah, there's some crazy stuff you can do for sure. But yeah, that's it, guys. Nice little update on there. We'll kind of go through the major updates. There's a few of these that didn't have much of any updates. So if you don't see a video about that, or we do a compiled video, we're not sure how we're going to do those small updates yet. Might just compile the ones that are like one little thing here and there, and then do the big changes individually. Because we don't want to make 40-minute videos just for something if you only want to see one of them. You know what I mean? So we'll just keep it simple so you can get right to the ones you want to watch. Skip the ones you don't, which don't skip them.
No, watch them anyway.
But again, guys,
education.
That's it.
Knowledge is power.
Again, we're still working with Hit Point Press, so make sure you check out their stuff. We got lots of awesome stuff on their website, so make sure you check them out regularly on a regular basis because they're always adding new stuff and new deals and working with other Kickstarter projects and stuff like that. So just make sure you guys check them out. Support them, support us. That's all for today, guys. As always, thanks for watching.